I'm Pedro Silva.
I'm Daniel Rosa.
Saints.
Who's that?
So today,
The great.
the Albert.
The Albert.
The Magnus.
Albertus Magnus.
I was not privy to that. I apologize for that.
So we're talking about St. Albert the Great today.
He is the man.
The myth. No, he's not a myth. Well, yeah, my bad.
There are myths,
There are.
but myths are good.
Yeah, like the contention right now with St. Christopher.
Oh, yeah.
Big contention. We don't know if
Yes.
he's real. Evidence points to not.
But our faith points to what?
Points to
Reality.
Reality.
I think St. Christopher is real.
Yeah,
I do.
that's nice.
I do. I mean,
Bless your heart.
there's a reason why. And even talk about Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And the importance of myth. And he
Okay.
makes a distinction between, and it's actually a great way, like a segue into St. Albert. His big quote that all theologians quote, and people that don't know what it means, they quote it anyway: faith seeking understanding.
Yes.
So Jordan Peterson makes a distinction between scientific knowledge and mythological subjective knowledge. In the objective knowledge, like what we see, yeah, like that's a chair, This is, I don't know why Kathy put it here, but I love it. Ottoman. Yes, thank you. My tennis shoe. We can't, these are facts, But the person who made this ottoman may have some meaning behind it. Like the color pattern that they chose, the wood could have been a gift to his daughter or his spouse. So there's a myth behind the making of objects that provides meaning and context to life.
Is that called myth or is that called intention?
So that would be we don't know who made it. We can come up with a narrative.
Oh.
So even the stories of the Egyptian gods, Mesopotamian gods, we all have something to receive from those myths.
Mm-hmm.
They're all communicating something real, something pre-scientific that gave more of a stability to nations before us. Because what we have now is what we see is we're very sure of what we know, but yet science has yet to give us any sort of meaning. And even Jordan Peterson makes the observation that this, if you bring these two worlds together of myth, religion, science, that's really a life of a full life. You're able to have a more of a meaningful life. Because even he understood that in his own life, he let go of his Christian principles when by very fact, he's been living from them.
Yeah.
Even unconsciously, he's living from these Judeo-Christian principles, even though he rejected Judeo-Christianity himself.
Yeah.
But he sees the value. It's something that has been given to us through these myths. But by throwing out myth, we throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about people like St. Albert the Great is his humility, that childlike spirituality that was able to receive so much knowledge because he had such an inquisitive and open spirit to the world, because the world was created by a benevolent God, and that was the norm of the day. Even to some, if it was a myth, but that myth communicated something real, something tangible, something transcendent that not even reason can explain.
What we gotta love about St. Albert the Great, he comes at a time near St. Dominic. He was a Dominican.
Yes.
He was the teacher of St. Thomas Aquinas in the late 13th century. So he's about a 13th century saint himself. He was one who knew everything. All the knowledge in the world.
12th century.
Of the 12th century, excuse me. He had it all. But what's fascinating is why do we remember St. Thomas Aquinas more than St. Albert the Great, his teacher?
Well, he was the great. It's St. Albert the Great always knew. So observation from other friars was that Thomas Aquinas was just this dumb ox. because he was big, and he was also not that he was dumb like the way we understand the word, but that he was silent. He was very reflective. And actually, one of the stories that I love about St. Thomas is somebody walked into his room late at night. It was like way past time to go to bed, and he was holding a candle. And it literally was burning his fingers. But he was so consumed in thought and in prayer that he didn't even notice. So St. Thomas was just this intellect. I mean, till this day, he is the doctor of the church. And then Saint Albert the Great made this observation to these other friars that this dumb ox one day will bellow, and his voice will ring out throughout the whole world, and they will heed his voice. And surely enough, if you're a student of philosophy, you can't call yourself a philosopher if you haven't read the Summa, if you haven't read Summa Contra Gentiles by Thomas Aquinas. But that was all given to him through his mentor, through Saint Albert the Great.
Yeah. What's really amazing through an understanding of Thomas Aquinas, through Albert the Great, even today, some would say that great leaders not only do the good work, but the best leaders are able to set success for their successors. That it matters how you set up the next person afterwards, and that he was able to provide Thomas a place in the world, to give him courage, to protect him from the belligerent
Yes.
other students, his own family. But what's our role in protecting the next generation? Because I joke with my teens that some of them are coming after my job. Sometimes they take over the opening game, or they lead the prayer. It's really good. Or they say a comment just like, "Whoa, slow down there, Chief, man. He's about to take my job." I was like, "That's okay." But like, how do we imitate Albert in helping the next generation thrive and letting their charisms, their gifts shine to glorify God?
Well, don't be a prideful son of a gun. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to share credit nowadays. Everybody wants to do their own thing. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest sins in churches nowadays. Everybody wants credit for himself. But that's not what Jesus did. And I honestly see my job as to highlight your gifts as much as possible, and to give you opportunities to shine. And hopefully I'm doing that. But I want people to see how great you are. And my job is just to provide whatever it is, whether it be, protecting you, whether it be, ideas. But I want you to shine. But also, I want to be able to approach you as a brother and give you fraternal correction when needed. And honestly, you've been the best at that. Every suggestion that I've made to you, you've always been very respectful. You've considered it, and you applied most. Because you know that I have like my best intention for you.
Correct.
And I want you to shine. It starts with friendship, actually, building trust. If there's no trust, there can be no friendship. If there's no friendship, then we are against each other. Because everybody wants to go to work with their friends. Even you want to call it co-workers, but to be mission, there needs to be trust. It can't be trust without some semblance of friendship.
Yeah. I can say that as these 10 months have gone by, and we've known each other now. Yeah.
Good Lord.
And we've known each other for 13 months now. I remember dates really, really vividly, but I try to always return the gift that you've given me by when saying that something's going really well. I want to be able to continue. It's like, yeah, Pedro offered this because it is not by my own strength. It's really interesting when one has an ability to speak and to be in front of a crowd, and instead of shutting down, it actually gives me more life. Most people celebrate that more than the wonder and invention, than the discernment. Usually the G, it's mainly the G that gets most of it. It's not fair, but it helps us to continue to do our job. And it is our responsibility to give that back. But knowing that I need help, I desperately need help. Who I am and the way we are able to thrive here to work alongside each other, I was not having this much fun, nor was it this efficient and effective at any other time in my short career. And for that, like, I know that's unique to the gifts that are here of this staff, and the prayer and the sacraments. And
I'll stop you right there real quick. Were you talking about the wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enable? That's the working genius, which you talked about it before, but it's just wanted to give the name out there. You should look into it. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it really works. It really works if you put it into practice, even in your marriages.
Yeah.
You're doing it right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. But no, absolutely. It's cool to. I mean, sometimes when we talk about the saints, we always think about how do we give to others? How do we give to our students, our families, our parishioners, our community? But it really starts with those closest to us.
No saints become the saints alone. Saints are not born in a vacuum. They are nurtured and cultivated in friendships. Like you look at all the great saints in the church, they come in twos or threes or a group.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to be part of St. Kathy Newsbomb and Companions. I want to be companions,
I like companions.
I think companions is so much cooler. You're like,
I was there.
Living the hidden life.
I was there.
And now my life is being threatened by the office angel. But it's cool to see because even in this time, there was a lot of. It was actually a time where the church was suffering.
Mm.
It was a time where there's this brand new school of philosophy that just came into the picture from the the Islamic culture. No, it was Aristotelian philosophy and natural theology.
Yeah.
The church was kind of hesitant to engage. Like the church is very slow when it comes to like responding to things. It responds 50 years later, but it gives a response nevertheless. Yes. But Thomas Aquinas started engaging with it, and in a time where they were using Aristotelian philosophy to discredit the church and to move the church to more of a rationalistic understanding of the world. And St. Albert the Great kind of hit his max. He was a Neoplatonist. He started, incorporating bits and pieces of Aristotelian philosophy, but he passed the baton to Thomas. He knew that Thomas was going to be the guy that's going to take the church to the next intellectual level. So much so that at the Council of Trent, they placed the Summa in the Bible on the altar. Thomas's philosophy was Council of Lyon. No, it was Council of Trent. It was integral to the documents of that time. Especially post-Reformation.
Mm-hmm.
So in Pope Leo XIII in the 19th century, the end of the 19th century, he wrote a whole encyclical on Thomas and the need to make Thomas the central figure in Catholic education.
Yep.
And from that moment on, you look at Pius X, you look at all the great popes and saints of the 20th century, and even so now, Thomas is still the common teacher of the church.
Yes. Praise God.
But because he had a great teacher himself.
St. Albert the Great.
Pray for us.
Tune in next time to
Saints.
Who's that?